Well, welcome back to our next edition of Hello World with Mike Cara, as always, proudly broadcasting from Ocoee, Florida, USA, planet Earth. And my guest today is Iona Fyfe, who is an Aberdeenshire folk singer. She is one of Scotland's finest young ballad singers, rooted deeply in the singing traditions of the northeast area of Scotland, and she has toured throughout the UK, Poland, France, Germany, Austria, Italy, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, and Canada. And we're so blessed and honored to have her here today to tell us all about her wonderful music. And first of all, Iona, greetings from Orlando, Florida. Mickey says hello. And first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in all this singing and where your love and passion for music comes from?
Yeah, hello, Mike. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be on the podcast. I went to Orlando when I was 2 years old. We went to Disney World. It was exciting. And currently, one of my Scots song peoples actually lives in Miami. So she is American, but she's been learning how to speak and sing in Scots for the last year with me. So it's really cool having that link there. Yeah, so I grew up in Aberdeenshire, which is the rural northeast of Scotland, not urban at all. My great great grandfather was like a farmer, quite a high up farmer. But in my family, no one really does folk music and no one is connected to the land anymore, which is really sad. But I was brought along to, festivals and folk clubs and sing-arounds when I was really young. And the organisation that ran them was called the Traditional Music and Song Association, which has been running since 1966, so the pinnacle of the folk revival in Scotland. And now I'm one of their directors, which is really cool to be, a young woman with a voice on the board of a cultural arts organisation. But yeah, it was older singers that kind of got me involved with singing in the language and connecting with my own traditions.
Oh, great. So Iona, tell us a little bit about, some of the songs that you sing. I mean, these are traditional Scottish songs then?
Yeah, they are traditional in origin, although, over the past couple of years I have managed to like branch out and sing some Appalachian ballads that are connected to Aberdeenshire, doing some more Americana type stuff. But traditionally, I did a degree in Scots song at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. So I've got a degree in traditional music, which is really cool that you can get a degree in traditional music. So yeah, it's mainly traditional songs from Scotland in the Scots language. So in Scotland, we've got three different languages. We've got English, of course. We've got Gaelic, which is a Celtic language. And then we've got Scots, which is a West Germanic language, sister to English, but very different. It's got its own, dictionary, its own orthography. It's, you can buy Harry Potter in English, and then you can also buy Harry Potter in Scots. You can buy these books that have been translated into the language. Currently, it's not recognised as an official language in Scotland, but we're working on getting the government to change that, because the European Charter of Minority Languages recognises Scots as a language. Spotify recognises Scots as a language now, but my own government don't. So that's kind of what I do in my spare time when I'm not touring or recording or whatever.
Oh, okay. So let's talk a little bit about this, Scots language. So this is something that you grew up knowing or had to learn, or how did that work?
It's really the language of the home. So my mum and dad speak it. Every, 1.5 million people in Scotland speak Scots, and each region has a different dialect or vernacular. So the regional vernacular that I grew up speaking was Doric, so Doric, like Doric columns. But people from Orkney and Shetland have a different dialect. Instead of saying yeah for you, they would say do. Do you want a cup of tea? Like, instead of are you wanting a cup of tea? Like, it's interesting because it is very mutually intelligible to English, but then it's AFA different as well at the same time. There's a children's book in the UK called The Gruffalo, and it's been translated into several dialects of Scots. It's been translated into Orcadian, Shetland, Dundonian, Doric, Glaswegian. All of these different dialects are kind of fighting to stay alive, whilst we do want a standard in order to like open more doors for education and infrastructure and broadcasting and media. Because there's a lot, I'm speaking to you in English because you're speaking to me in English, but generally, the way that I'd speak to my mum and my dad and my pals and, just in general here would be in Scots. It would probably be in Doric. But unfortunately, there's loads of class stigmatism with folk that speak in Doric because traditionally the language was, of farmer and of field and of fisher folk. But years and years ago, before the Act of Union in the United Kingdom, Scots, along with Latin and French and Gaelic, was the language of the courts. It was the language of, the judicial system. Mary Queen of Scots spoke French, Latin, and Scots. The language is incredibly important, and it's moved on. It's a living language, and bairns at school they speak it. They don't realise they speak it. So 1.5 million is a conservative estimate, but it's cool.
Oh, okay. So so I wanted to ask you. So the word, what was it? Bra is that in Scots then, or?
Yeah, bra kind of just means great, amazing, good, ace. BRAW. Sometimes people think that it means brave, but it doesn't. It's more like, oh, that's good, bra, nae bother. It's kind of conversational. On the 4th of June, there is a thing called Giza Scots Phrase Day, which is exciting, and it's ran by an organisation called Hands Up for Trad, and we're basically asking people who are native speakers and learners to record them saying a Scots phrase and put it online and try and get Scots trending. I mean, when Spotify agreed to add Scots as a language on their platform, that was a huge step forward for Scots. I realised that all my music had been categorised under English, which is incredibly wrong because most of my music is in Scots or, in a sliding scale of kind of English to Scots. So I asked Spotify to change it, and it took 3 months of campaigning and writing letters and writing to governments and stuff, but they've changed it. And having a global platform like Spotify adding this language, a minority language like Scots, to its platform is incredibly good for its legitimacy and credibility.
Okay, so we mentioned, Iona, that you travel, all over, Europe. You've been to Canada. So I mean, when you perform, do you perform in all 3 languages, or how does that usually work then?
Mm-hmm. So I currently don't speak Gaelic or sing in Gaelic. Haniel Gaelic agam, that means I don't speak Gaelic. So I would sing in a typical gig, I would sing in Scots and in English. I would introduce the songs in a mix of Scots and English called code switching. From context, audiences understand it. They totally get it. And especially in European countries where their language is quite similar to Scots. So in Germany, we share many words with Scots and German. Like the word acht is the exact same, eight, acht. In Sweden, the word bra is bra. The word for hus is hus, the same. Kirk and bairn for child. In Denmark, the Scots word for girl is quine. In Denmark, the Scots word for girl is kvine. So there's so many European similarities with Scots that it's not an issue. And also from context, people understand what you're saying. But a lot of people say, oh, I love your accent and all that, but they don't actually realise that I am singing in a different language and that they are understanding it. But that doesn't mean it's not a different language. It just means it's a mutual intelligible language from English because it's a sister language. English actually came from Middle Scots. And in the UK, before English even came,
Right.
everyone was speaking Welsh.
Right. So for you, Iona, I mean, is there certain songs then, when you're preparing for these shows that, you need to sing or want to sing, or people expect you to sing, or?
Yeah, I think people expect me to sing like really upbeat kind of bothy ballads, traditional ballads that have been in my albums and in my back catalogue. And then when I throw in like a curveball, people are like, "Oh, what?" I sing some Gillian Welch songs. Sing some Bob Dylan songs as well. Sometimes translate Bob Dylan songs into Scots. I've recorded a studio version of a Taylor Swift song that I've translated into Scots. I'm in the process of clearing the translation with her label. But yeah, I generally sing traditional stuff, but more and more now I'm singing more kind of not mainstream, but more like folky, poppy type stuff, and that's where I would kind of want to go to
Right.
make it more mainstream.
Oh, okay. So you try to mix in, different, like I said, styles, and that works good. Then people enjoy then all those songs. Then,
Yeah, I mean, because of the pandemic, I haven't had the chance to perform some of these songs live with an audience. But over 2020 and 2021, I've had the chance to make new repertoire and work on a new album and release more singles. But generally, I haven't toured properly since 2019. So I'll still have to see what the reception is. But I generally think that making Scots accessible by doing things like a Taylor Swift song in Scots is generally quite good to normalize the using of it. So yeah.
okay, Iona. So we want to talk about, speaking of songs, talk about the nice songs our audience has been listening to, and you can tell us a little bit about, each one. So the first song we have is Scotland Yet. Can you tell us about this song?
Yeah, well, it's not traditional, it's actually contemporary, and it was written by a man named Davy Steele. He was a Scottish folk singer and a songwriter, and he wrote it in, around 1996, 7, 8, in the lead up to Scottish devolution. So in the United Kingdom, it's a very complex political atmosphere. Scottish people like myself believe in home rule, self determination for Scotland, being able to rule ourselves. People like me want to break away from the United Kingdom,
Right.
and part of that was getting our own parliament in 1998. I was born in 1998. So that song was written for devolution, but in 2021, I released it a month before our election. And our election this year was one of the most important elections in Scottish history because it comes, 4 years after Brexit is voted on. It comes 7 years after our last independence referendum was, you know, vetoed as a no. This election was important and we won it, of course, which is great. But the song really, ultimately, if you take the politics away from it, it is about hope for the future. And, for me, I'll drink a toast to Scotland yet, whatever yet may be. Yeah, it's just about loving your country and, the future of your country.
Okay, and the next song we have here is The Northern Lights. Can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so the Northern Lights is a super kind of, it's not traditional either. It was written by a woman in Aberdeen, and the Northern Lights of old Aberdeen, it's about longing for home, it's about wanting to go back to Aberdeen. A few months ago, I partnered up with a football team, Aberdeen Football Club, um, who are, kind of in the league in Scotland, and they asked us to record the Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen to launch their season tickets. And it was really cool. It's great to partner up with soccer teams and all that kind of stuff. So we released it in collaboration with the football club. But it is really a beautiful song about wanting to go home and missing home because I live in Glasgow now, but I'm from Aberdeenshire.
Oh, okay. And now another song we have here is The Wild Geese. Can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, well, this is traditional in essence. It was a poem. It was a poem published in 1921 by a woman named Violet Jacob. Now, in Scotland, you're probably familiar with Robert Burns,
Right. Yeah.
who wrote that song Auld Lang Syne that y'all sing at Hogmanay. But what a lot of people don't realise is that we've got much, much more poets than just Robert Burns, and female poets at that, who were certainly overlooked in their living existence, and only became well known after they had died, because folk singers took the poems and put melody to the poems to make them into songs. So The Wild Geese is one of those songs that started its life as a poem, and then the folk singer Jim Reid, who was a very well known Scottish folk singer, he put that melody to it, and it's just gorgeous. And it's about a man who's left Scotland, he's in England, and he's having a conversation between the wind. And the wind is telling him all of the beautiful sights that it's seen on its travels.
Oh, great. So yeah, those are three songs. And so, I mean, are those songs that usually you sing are popular songs that you, well, I understand the Northern Lights, is that like your new single then?
Yeah, all of these have been released March, April, May in 2020. So they're all relatively new, which is cool because lockdown has allowed me to record new stuff, which is awesome. Um, there are some new singles coming out this year. I'm just waiting for the right time to put them out. But yeah, these are all new songs, and once I get back to touring and performing live, they'll be part of my repertoire.
Oh, okay. So you're mentioning about the lockdown. So unlike here in Florida, then you're still locked down, or there's still not music, live music going on there then?
No. So generally the UK is very mixed. So there's, of course, there's this idea of a four nations approach where each devolved government follows what England does, but that's not necessarily what's happened because each area is very different, socio-political and just in general. So the rates of, COVID progression and vaccination progression has been different in different areas of the UK, even in different regions in Scotland. In Glasgow, we are still in a tier 3 lockdown. So we have not been allowed to meet people indoors since last September. It is currently illegal for someone to come into my flat and to have a cup of coffee in the flat. We are allowed to meet people outdoors. We can grab a coffee, but in general, in Glasgow, you're not allowed to drink alcohol inside either. So that's a bit of an issue for venues. You also, it's still 2 meters social distancing, which means that a lot of venues can't open because it's just not financially viable. Glasgow is a bit of an anomaly. Other parts of Scotland, things are opening up, but in general, live music is still a bit of a no-go. So unfortunately, things haven't, gotten much better here. We are getting people vaccinated. I've had my first vaccination and I'm 23, so things are happening. But there's just, it's taken a little bit longer because of certain things that have happened in the past while. There was a big football win for a team, and 15,000 people begun to line the streets of Glasgow. So that event basically caused us to go behind in the COVID thing because of this huge mass gathering of people. So unfortunately, Glasgow's a complex city when it comes to issues like that. So everyone kind of suffers just because of some people.
Oh, right, right. One thing I wanted to ask you, Iona, being in Glasgow, I mean, not now, with the lockdown, but, I was talking to a lot of these, Irish guys that, they come into, Glasgow and they perform there. I mean, is that one of the things you see is that you have, the traditional Scottish music and the traditional Irish music in Glasgow too, or?
Yeah, it's super healthy. So, well, before the pandemic, every night of the week, if you wanted to hear, Scottish music or Irish music being played in a bar or in a venue or in a pub or whatever, you could go out and find that, every single night of the week. Of course, Glasgow is home to a lot of people who are Irish, or their family was Irish, they have Irish names, they have Irish heritage, because there was so much a mass exodus of, emigration from Ireland to Scotland, and Glasgow's got a lot of great Irish communities. But every night of the week before the lockdown, you could go and have a drink and listen to great music in the pub, often friends. So, but these were often the cream of the like the best musicians that you'd find in bands. But in their social life, they would go to the pub and play tunes, just for fun. So you could find really well-known, great Irish and Scottish musicians just in the pub, having a drink, having a tune. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask you, Iona, that it said here that you have performed in Canada. We know that there is a very large population. Well, here in America, but
Yeah.
in Canada too. So I mean, are you received very good, and you get a lot of fans in Canada then?
I guess generally I went to Canada for the tartan day and it was amazing and everyone was saying, oh yeah, my great grandfather was a Scot and all that kind of stuff. And there's so much immigration. It's really beautiful. I've also had the privilege of going to Australia too, which of course lots of Scots there. And I have performed in New Orleans at Folk Alliance. So I hope to get back to the US next year for a tour. It is great that I can go all over the world and people will identify with Scottish music and culture. However, it is really important to acknowledge why that is, and that is due to British colonialism. So, whilst it's good to celebrate this, it's also good to recognise that actually, this came from quite an ugly thing. So, as long as we acknowledge why we're benefiting from this, then this is good. But we also need to make repairs.
Yeah. So I mean, you also performed like in countries like Italy and the Czech Republic. I mean, how was it an experience like that?
Generally, sometimes language barriers is difficult. So trying to explain the songs in English and then sing them in Scots can sometimes be a double language barrier. However, music is an international language. So as soon as you sing, you get over the story and the narrative through music. But generally, people have been quite receptive, and even if they might not understand the Scots language, I'll give them information in the
Right.
introduction in English. So, my mum is always telling me, oh, you need to sing more in English. Like, you're never going to be successful enough if you just sing in Scots. But the thing is that if you introduce in English and then sing in Scots, then it's totally fine. Like, we've just saw Italy as just won Eurovision with an Italian song in Italian. Like music's such an international language that we shouldn't be constrained by language barriers at all.
Right, right. One thing I wanted to ask you, Iona, that we see this, in the Irish culture where, at pubs and taverns, people will all start singing. So I mean, they'll just all join in. So I mean, in the Scottish culture, is that something like at pubs and that everyone will just start singing, or?
Yeah, totally. Depending on what part of Scotland you're in, but that unaccompanied group singing tradition is still very strong, and it goes back to the folk club years and the fact that ballads and songs would be passed down from generation to generation, and when there wasn't TVs and all that, people generally sung in the house. But I've been to plenty parties and pubs where people will have a tune and they'll sing in a flat, and it is like that. And I don't like
Right.
to give off this image of Scotland all couthy, but that is generally what it is. Young people, older people, whoever. It's awesome.
Okay, Iona. So I want to talk a little bit, about your social media and website. So first of all, do you have a website?
I do. It's ionafyfe.com.
Okay, and now as far as like social media, are you on Facebook and Twitter and all that?
I'm on everything. So Instagram and Facebook and Twitter is one of my favorites. Twitter is probably because it's political. I also have TikTok, which is cool. I've started doing Scots translations of pop songs on TikTok. So just yeah, all the social medias.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about, the Scots translation. So I mean, could you give us like an example of how, maybe popular song would sound like, whether you sing it or just say the words, how a popular song would sound in Scots?
Yeah. Let's sing. Roll me ho, tack me somewhere we can be alone. I'll be waiting, others left the days run. You'll be a prince and I'll be a princess. Stuff like that. Or the Olivia Rodrigo album. It's like, can we weren't a perfect, but I've never felt this way for nobody. It's just translating it into Scots, and it works well as long as you're doing it seriously and not funnily. Like the Scots language is also always wrapped up in humour, and a lot of the time we need to make it less funny and more serious. So, I led a campaign to get our politicians to speak in Scots in the Parliament. And 27% of the Scottish Parliament right now has signed a Scots pledge to say that they'll commit to speaking and promoting the Scots language. So 27% seems like not a lot, but 30% of the population speak Scots. So 27% is actually very representative of our population of Scots speakers. So yeah, I guess my work is very musical, but also very linguistic and also quite political too, which is cool. I like it.
Great. So I wanted to ask you, Iona, so, have you done any of these like Facebook Live, concerts or shows or?
Yeah, I'm so tired of them. I'm so tired of them. I just want a real life gig. Facebook Live is great, and over the pandemic, it's been amazing. But you don't have that proper connection with the audience. You don't have, you can't see them properly. It's great, but I want to move out of that. I want to get back to doing real life gigs. I want my life back. We all want our lives back, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, Iona, have you any plans, to do any more traveling at this point, or you just have to wait and see how things are going with the lockdown there?
Yeah, I think we have to wait and see. I do have a tour in Denmark in November, and that should go ahead. Denmark's quite a small European country, and they have got things under control. As long as, Scotland and the UK keep things under control. There seems to be new variants coming a lot of the time from different countries. So as long as we make sure that we have control over our borders and we, properly shut down when we need to shut down to keep new variants out, then it should be okay. But in general, I think that tour in Denmark will go ahead, but everything else probably won't. There's a lot of, bureaucratic mess to clean up. And of course, Brexit has not made things very easy, which is a huge shame.
Right, yeah. Okay, Iona. So, do you have a chance? Being there kind of on lockdown, have a chance to, to practice songs or at least arrange songs? Or, I don't know if you're going to be like recording new songs or.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm just going to start on my second and third album. Usually you do one album at a time, but my second album is going to be a very traditional folky Scots album, my second album, and then the third one will be some songs I've written in English, quite folk pop. So I'm working on two albums right now. I don't know what the plan is for when they'll get released, probably 2022, 23 maybe, but yeah, I'm working on it. Lockdown is actually, it's been incredibly busy, in terms of the language stuff and the political stuff and just general. Sometimes I teach, it's cool, but my main love is performing live. That's what I trained to do. I graduated from the conservatoire with a degree in music. I trained for years and years. Live performance is what I want to spend my time doing.
Oh, so yeah, to get back out there live and in front of the people. So I mean, I don't know for you when you did perform live. I mean, did you have a chance to meet the audience and the fans? I mean, did you have a chance to talk with them?
Absolutely. No matter how big the gig or how small and intimate the gig, I will always go out and meet people afterwards at the CD stand or whatever. And if it's a folk club and all that, you see them before and at the break and after. It really depends, but I'm quite chatty and I love speaking to people, and I always want to thank people for coming out and for supporting me. And I think that in my career that will always remain the same, regardless if it's a tiny venue or a concert hall or a festival or whatever. That's really important to be able to be personable and to treat the audience like you really respect every single one of them that comes out, because I totally do.
Okay, Iona. So first of all, I wanted to ask you, here in Orlando area, we have the Central Florida Highland Games. And first of all, would that be something that you would like to perform at? And what is your thoughts about these Highland Games all over the world?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. I love that kind of stuff. I love that, Scottish culture and traditions is everywhere. Again, it's stemmed from colonialism and we need to acknowledge that. But yeah, it's really cool. Like, I'd love to, I really like Outlander as well. So, I love that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, like in Scotland, there's always Highland Games on all the time. And I haven't been to one since I was very young. They sometimes don't have bands playing per such in Scotland. It's mostly like pipe bands and dancing and tossing the caber and all that. But yeah, I'd love to come and do some of them.
Oh, okay, Iona. So, I mean, along those lines, do you have any plans? You mentioned about New Orleans. Do you have any plans of returning there anytime in the future or in America?
Yeah, so in 2022, I'm supposed to be doing a West Coast tour. We need to figure that out and get the visa and put all that into motion. But yeah, I've been working with an agent to get some gigs on the go, which is cool. But yeah, we just need to wait and see. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Iona. Well, we really appreciate your time, and we look forward. So yeah, before we go, if somebody would like to purchase your music or get your albums, I mean, do you have other albums people could get or?
Yeah, so they are on Bandcamp. I can send them out physically from Bandcamp, and I control that, which is great. They're also on, iTunes and Spotify and Amazon and Deezer and all that. But really, if you want to support artists in 2021, go and find their Bandcamp, and they will set the artists often control the Bandcamp themselves, and I will send you the CD myself with PPE and with sanitized hands and all that stuff. So yeah, I've got 2 CDs for sale and the rest are digital.
Okay, Iona, thanks so much for your time. Any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to mention here?
I don't think so. Just stay in touch. I've got a mailing list and I put all my information about gigs and tours and stuff on that. And that's at ionafyfe.com/mailing list.
Oh, okay. And before you go, so how was the weather in Scotland there where you are?
Right now, it is amazing. I'm away to go outside again. Usually, it's been really rubbish this year. The whole of April and May has just been raining. And today, tomorrow, and the next day, in May, it's going to be really hot. It's like 17 degrees, and that is nothing compared to what you guys have in Florida. I get it, but here everyone has got their top off. It's like we're just happy to get some sun. I mean, I'm very pale. I'm extremely pale. So going out and getting some sun will be good.
Oh, okay, Iona. Again, we appreciate your time, and if you could give your website one final time here.
Yeah, it is www.ionafyfe.com.
Okay, my guest has been Iona Fyfe, and you've been listening to Hello World with Mike Cara, and please catch us again next time.
Aw, lovely. See ya.